What is up, guys? Time to wrap up this first semester's worth of content with our 8th and final subject here, the DOM, the Document Object Model. So let's have a look at where we are with our game. If I refresh this guy and click on it, when I click on this, a number of things get console logged down here, but nothing actually happens on the page except when you miss there. So we're console logging a lot of stuff, but we're not really seeing anything happening on the page, and that's where the document object model comes in. So if we review here, we've got variables, objects, arrays, dice roll function, a number of different things, but we're not seeing anything on the page except, of course, for that alert. In the case of this attack function, which runs a battle function inside it, we kind of want to see what's going on. We've got alerts, which are kind of annoying. We've got a console log of different things that happen there, but we don't have any information appearing on the screen. So instead of console logging, we want to access an element on the page. And usually what I like to do is either do, you can either put a document.getElementById and just insert some content into an element there. So document.getElementById, and we're just going to say status, and then we'll put it in the inner HTML of something called status. And in that inner HTML, we're going to create a variable called, I don't know, message, right? Now, we don't have a variable called message yet, so it's immediately going to error and say there's no variable called message. I'm going to put that up here, but I'm actually not going to have anything in it. The reason is I want to change it, so I'm going to make it an empty string here because based on what's happening here, I may want to change that message, or I may want to actually run something else that updates status based on whatever and use an argument. So let me give you an example. If I do a var, I'll do status update, and I do message in here instead, then I'm using a function to give the message, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this out here and do that. Now, this is a parameter inside this thing, and I'm going to do var status update equals function, right? So let's do our syntax correctly. So var status update equals function, message, document, ID, and so on. So it's going to look for this ID in the HTML. Instead of having it run just here in battle function, and we're going to leave this empty here for just a second, I want status update to be called whenever I want to use it for anything. So status update is going to go to status, it's going to look for message. Now, before we get confused here, I set up this global variable. I probably don't want to confuse things. So I'm either going to use a global variable or I'm going to use the function. In this case, I'm actually going to get rid of that global variable that I just created because I have to decide either I'm going to use it here in the function or I want to use it as a global variable. Now, I'm not saying technically that is problematic because this is not a global variable. This is a parameter, and this is the utilization of that parameter inside the scope of this. But for human purposes and avoiding confusion when people are looking at your code, you wouldn't necessarily want to have those things named the same thing. Now, how does status update work? Well, now that battle function is going, battle function is going to be able to run this status update rather, and then I can put a message in there. And so what is my message? I can say, I could actually do both of these things right here. So I could say, copy this, paste it in there, make sure I have my parentheses right. And it could say, your health is, here health, and then a period, and then I could do plus, and simply do this, right? So now I probably want to add some sort of verbiage in here. So I could say the monster's health is now space, and then concatenate that in there. And then of course we'll copy this little guy right here. We want to put proper punctuation. So what this is going to do is it's going to status update will pull an argument that says your health is hero health plus period, and the monster's health is now whatever. So anytime status update gets pulled, in this case inside the battle function, it's going to pass that message into status, right? So where is status? That's the big question, right? So to wrap this up and put a bow on it, I'm going to go back to my source code, and I need to create that somewhere. In here we've got div class equals content, but we don't really have any elements doing anything else. So I'm going to create a paragraph with an ID of status update. Okay, and actually status, because that's the name of the function. Let's be clear. This is where the status will go. So now this element can be accessed this way using this ID. Okay, and in this case, status update will run and give me this, but over here, I might want to status update, okay, you missed. Now this allows us to get rid of the alert, because we don't want alerts as often as we can help it. In this case it's kind of helpful because it does tell you when you missed. So battle doesn't run here. So battle will run here, but you've got hero.potion amount. You could do something like status update you were healed, right? And then whatever. I mean, we'll just leave it like that. We don't need to make it more difficult at this point. So or add more details, that is. So there's those things there. Now we have the document object model. We're accessing through the document an element by its ID called status, taking the inner HTML and changing it to message, which of course is a parameter here. So when we pass that through as an argument in status update over here, and don't forget, I've already made one syntax error and it should catch me for that. I need to close that off. So status update there, and then I need to make sure and terminate that that way. So we've got var battle function there, and that function opens and closes that way. So there you go. So now we should see when we refresh our page, and we always want to check our console. So an easy way to do this is right click and inspect. Uncaught reference error, invalid left-hand side in assignment. So I made a syntax error in here somewhere. Let's find it. Let's see where it says it is. It says it's in JS line 40. So let's find it. So usually what that means is I've got something going on here. So status update, your health is plus hero health plus the monster's health is now plus monster health equals monster health plus. Now what I probably am going to need is actually to put this in parentheses so that that value is there, and I did clear up at least one error there. So this is just too much for it to look at without those parentheses. It wants to know that value is self-contained. So that's just the syntactically correct way to do that, is to put everything in parentheses so it holds this whole thing as one value. And there's a shorthand way to write this that we've gone over in class, but I'm not going to go over it right now because we're already at 9 minutes on this video. But let's look at the document object model. In conclusion, let's refresh it. Our console is clean. And again, refresh. So if I click this, now I should be getting some sort of a message. And if I'm not, then let's take another look at the console. Okay, the console is clean. except for this. So it says enter HTML of null. Now you guys have seen this error before. So we have status equals message. Okay, so let's have a look at this, and we'll go ahead and debug this at the end of the video here. So we're going to debug this. So we've got status update equals function message document got MOD status, enter HTML message. That's great. Status update, your health is, and then hero health, and the monster's health is now, and we should be fairly good. We'll just double check our Dreamweaver output here and see if we can find anything. And we've got a missing semicolon here, which we probably want to address. And we've got this, which means we for sure want to make sure that we appease the syntax gods. So we'll do that. I is not defined. We can't do anything. A lot of these that say they're defined but never used or used strict, we kind of ignore that. But we've got a missing semicolon there, and unnecessary semicolon there. And over here we've got function potion amount. Did I mean to return a conditional instead of an assignment? Nope, we sure didn't. We wanted to return this .health equals this .health plus equals amount. So everything else is good. Always just keep an eye on your, on your console, which we'll look at next, and save it. We'll save it up here. And what I forgot to do there was actually save my index file, which of course now has a status. So that's what's wrong. Mr. Gozart's tired and making silly mistakes. Now this is this is problematic all by itself. Black text on a dark gray background. So let's fix that real quick. All we really need to do is go over here, and we don't have a status, so we're going to create one. Text, we'll call it, and we'll just do color, and we can do light gray or something. And that should look decent. And then, since I know how to use CSS, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say p class equals status text. And now that should make that text light gray when I refresh it, and it does. And now when I click on them, it says the health is 100, the monster's health is now 180. Okay. It says I was healed. This isn't very fair because the monster isn't attacking me, which we'll go over in a follow-up video. Obviously, there's no monster to attack here. It's sort of one-sided. But essentially, we've got gameplay elements here that can be used. So again, going over that again, if we look at that, I've got a little bit of an error I'd want to clean up here, which is really just the spacing here. And that is to put a space either here at the end of this period or at the beginning of that sentence. I'll put it at the end of the period just so it'll be a little bit more straightforward. But refresh this, and now the monster's health is now 140, and so on. So that's a basic gameplay functionality. The DOM, document object model, was included here in this status update function that we wrote, where we can put any message into status, and it will update and let us know where we're at. Next video, we'll flesh this out a little bit further and finish it up. See you then.